Hey everyone, Mr. Harvey here. Let's continue our lecture with Chapter 3, the Protestant Reformation. So, in the previous lectures, we really focused on the German Reformation with Martin Luther. We focused on the English Reformation, started by Henry VIII, and we talked about kind of the English Reformation in the context of the rest of the Tudors, ending with Elizabeth I. Today, I want to focus on the Reformation in other areas, and I really want to focus on Switzerland, okay? And we're going to be talking about some of the other Protestant groups that are really going to rise during this time. Okay, so we're back on the continent. We're back into continental Europe, and we're focusing on the Protestant Reformation, okay? Kind of spreading to other areas, all right? So let's talk about Switzerland, okay, and the Swiss Reformation, all right? It happened almost simultaneously with Martin Luther's Lutheran movement, okay? And Switzerland, ladies and gentlemen, to give you all some context, all right, is within the HRE. Okay, it is within the HRE, these Germanic lands. But we're going to see in the 1500s and in the 1600s some major changes in Switzerland, where we will see them start to make some religious changes and eventually get their political freedom after the 30 Years' War in the 1600s, after that Treaty of Westphalia. Okay, Switzerland during this time, during the Swiss Reformation, 1500s, okay, was not unified yet. Like I just said, it's going to occur in the 1600s after the Treaty of Westphalia. All right, Switzerland was kind of constructing this loose confederacy of independent states called cantons. Okay, and this is and it's within the HRE, so it's within these Germanic lands. All right. All right, let's talk about some preconditions to the Swiss Reformation really quickly. Okay, number one is that the people of Switzerland wanted their own country. They wanted autonomy from the HRE. All right, and this was due to them often being used as like a foreign mercenary service and kind of just being used, to solve military conflicts. They didn't like that. All right, and so the Swiss people wanted their own country. All right. Moreover, the Swiss wanted church reform. They wanted, reform within the Catholic Church. Okay, after and since the councils of Constance and Basel, those events that we talked about in Chapter 1, right? Avignon, the decline of the church. Those had tremendous effects on the area, the lands in Switzerland, the people of Switzerland, and so they wanted some major changes. All right, so couple important things to note right here, ladies and gentlemen. We see political change. The people want political change. They want their autonomy, and they want religious change. All right, and we are going to see that both of those political and religious movements really take hold in Switzerland over the next in the 1500s and 1600s. Okay, now when it comes to the Reformation in Switzerland, all right, there's a couple people we need to know. Okay, John Calvin is one, and in the next lecture, right after this one, we're going to talk about Calvinism. But the person I want to focus on today and right now for the Reformation in Switzerland is Ulrich Zwingli. Okay, now he is a key leader of the Swiss Reformation in Zurich and in Switzerland as a whole. Okay, he was a humanist, very influenced by Erasmus. Okay, and he called for major reforms and eventually doctrinal changes within Christianity. Okay, he was the people's priest in the main church in Zurich. All right, and we're going to see once he starts to really preach some of the changes, it's going to take hold in Switzerland, and we are going to see the Protestant Reformation really start to accelerate in Switzerland. All right, let's talk about some of his main ideas. All right. One of the main ideas that he's really going to kind of promote, all right, and really push out there is the idea of ending clerical celibacy and giving priests the right to legally marry, all right, and we know that is directly against, Catholic doctrine. A really big one that we're going to see him promote, just like Martin Luther, is the idea that the Bible is the sole authority of religious practice, not the Pope. Very similar to Martin Luther, okay, and this shows, ladies and gentlemen, Zwingli really taking the Bible very seriously. All right, and again, shows his humanism. He's read multiple Bibles, looking for the truth. Is there a Pope in the Bible? Is there a Pope in the Bible? No. So the Bible is the sole authority of religious practice. Okay, and look, he's also, just like Martin Luther, going to question some major Catholic doctrines. Okay, fasting, transubstantiation, the worship of saints, pilgrimages, purgatory, sacraments. Okay, so Zwingli, it's almost like y'all might be thinking, man, is Zwingli a Lutheran? No, he's not. Okay, he does have some differences, and we're going to talk about one major difference. All right, but Zwingli is, definitely, challenging the Catholic Church on various doctrines, various issues. All right, now this Marburg Colloquy is important, ladies and gentlemen, for us to understand, because this was the attempt to bring Luther and Zwingli together, okay, and kind of create this united front with the Swiss Reformation under Zwingli and the German Reformation under Luther, okay. They had theological differences, and Philip of Hesse wanted to see if he could get these thinkers to meet at his castle and kind of, sort out their differences. But it's not going to work, all right? But this was the attempt to really unite the Swiss and German Protestants into even a bigger Protestant movement, to really put the Catholic Church and the HRE on the defensive. All right, so what was their disagreement? Okay, and this is going to be a deal breaker for them, okay, and why they don't, unite their movements, all right? And it was over the Eucharist. Now, if we remember, ladies and gentlemen, let's kind of focus up for a quick second. This is important, okay? Catholics believe in the idea of transubstantiation with the Eucharist, right? Okay, it's that idea that when you eat the bread, it transforms into the flesh of Christ. When you drink the wine, it transforms into the blood of Christ. That's transubstantiation. Now, Luther and Zwingli both agreed in this idea of consubstantiation, but there was a little difference in their beliefs over consubstantiation, okay? Luther, and let me discuss consubstantiation, okay? Luther believed in the idea of consubstantiation, which is this, okay, that when you eat the bread, okay, when you eat that bread, that in that piece of bread, Christ is already there, both his flesh is already there, both spiritually and physically, okay, so Christ's body is present in that bread. For the wine, Christ's blood is both physically and spiritually there. It's already there. There is no transformation, okay, so Martin Luther believed that in the bread, the body, the flesh of Christ was spiritually and bodily there. For the wine, the blood was physically and spiritually already in the wine. Okay, so Luther believes in both the physical and spirituality of Christ already in those two entities. All right, Zwingli believes only in the spirituality of consubstantiation. He does not believe that the flesh of Christ is present in that blood. In the bread, and he does not believe that the blood of Christ is physically in that wine. He only believes the Spirit of Christ is in the bread and in the wine. Okay, if you're having any troubles with that, let me know, and we can kind of discuss that further. All right, but that was a major difference. Okay, Luther, when it comes to consubstantiation, Luther believes in both the physical and spiritual aspects of consubstantiation. Zwingli believes only in the spiritual aspects of consubstantiation, and that was a deal breaker between the two. The meeting does not work, and the Protestant Reformation is going to be very much splintered theologically, politically, ideologically. Okay, and we're going to see lots of different Protestant groups start to kind of arise, and there's not going to be this, full-on united Protestant movement. Now, many Protestants will be sympathetic to one another, but some other groups will not be. Okay, so you're going to see many kind of different factions of Protestants throughout the Protestant Reformation. Okay. Now we're going to see in Switzerland, and this is kind of a precursor. This has already been this already kind of happened in the HRE, right? We talked about the Peace of Augsburg. We talked about the North princes with the Schmalkaldic League fighting against Charles V. Okay, we'll see kind of a similar religious wars break out in France in the HRE. All right, but we're going to see in Switzerland, the cantons divide themselves between Protestants and Catholics and fight. Okay. Eventually, we're going to see peace. The Catholic cantons will recognize the rights of the Swiss Protestants, okay? And each Swiss state will sign a treaty very similar to the Peace of Augsburg, okay, where each state can kind of determine its own religion, right? If we remember back to the Peace of Augsburg, 1555, Cuius Regio, Ius Religio, the leader of the land can determine the religion. Very similar to the Swiss civil wars, okay? But one of the reasons why I'm talking about this, okay, ladies and gentlemen, is that these religious differences are going to inevitably lead to some serious political conflicts, and it's kind of foreshadowing some of the major religious wars that we're going to be talking about in the next chapter. Okay? All right, let's talk about some other Protestant groups that we should be aware of, okay? One group is the Anabaptists, all right? This was a very devout group of Protestants considered very radical because they had some really radical beliefs for this time. Okay, and one of their radical beliefs, ladies and gentlemen, was this idea of adult baptism. Okay, and they believed in a very strict adherence to the Bible. Okay, they took the Bible literally, and that was their sole authority. Okay, now they believed in this idea of adult baptism. Okay, for a couple reasons. One, they felt that the youth, when you baptize infants, that they were too young to kind of confess their faith in a freely chosen manner. So they wanted people to kind of baptize their followers a little bit later in their life. All right, but again, and this shows that their kind of strict adherence to the Bible is that Jesus was baptized as an adult, and that's the main authority for their religion. Okay, so they believed that they would follow in how Jesus was baptized as an adult. Okay, and we're going to see that they wanted their religious changes to take place very quickly, and we're going to see them kind of get into some conflicts with some other groups. Okay. One such leader of Anabaptists, his name was Conrad Grebel. Okay, he created this group of Anabaptists called the Swiss Brethren. Excuse me. Okay, and some of the Anabaptist traits that we should be aware of, ladies and gentlemen, is they were pacifists. Okay, if we know what that means, they don't get into fights. Okay, they're not going to get out, into some crazy wars and harm other people. But we will see them get into conflicts. Okay, but a lot of other groups are going to persecute them. Okay. They didn't participate in secular government offices. They're going to refuse to take civic oaths. They're going to refuse to pay taxes or serve in the military. And they really believed in physically separating themselves from society. Now, they had some radical beliefs, okay? And we're going to see groups persecute them, but they're going to try to also, at the same time, really, kind of enforce their beliefs on other groups as well, which will lead to some really tremendous conflicts and backlash for different Anabaptist groups, okay? One such kind of instance of this is in Munster, okay, in Central Europe, all right? We're going to see the Anabaptists take control of Munster in Germany, okay, under these two leaders, Jan Matthies and Jan Bukels, all right? And they're going to force, very similarly to kind of like what we see within the Spanish Inquisition, Ferdinand and Isabella, they're going to force Catholics and Lutherans to convert or leave, all right, and really try to force their ideas on other groups. And this is going to really backfire on them as Munster is kind of transformed in this theocracy, really governed by the Anabaptists, and it's really going to create a backlash against the Anabaptists. Okay, we're going to see Protestants and Catholics unite because they're not stoked on the Anabaptists and really try to kick the Anabaptists out of Munster. This is going to lead to the formation of some more moderate Anabaptists called the Mennonites and the formation of other religious groups such as the Quakers, Spiritualists, and Trinitarians. Okay, so what's important about this, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you all to kind of focus on the big picture here, is we are seeing, okay, a lot of different Protestant groups start to arise with a lot of different beliefs. Okay, a lot of it. We've talked about Luther. Okay, we talked about Zwingli, the Anabaptists. Okay, we've talked about the Anglicans. All right, now we have different Mennonites, Quakers, spiritual. So we're seeing lots of different Protestant groups with different new ideas towards religion. Okay, we'll stop here, ladies and gentlemen, for today, and I'm going to create another lecture talking about the Calvinists. Thank you so much.